Hello and welcome to Lunch Therapy. I'm your host, Joel Marshall. Lunch Therapy is a show that happens on Tuesdays and Fridays at noon Pacific, live. Today we've got our guest for Interview Friday. We've got Julia Henning here, and she's just a remarkable person. We're going to get into that. But first I want to make some announcements of what's going on in the hummingbird universe. Let's see what's happening here. Well, I've got a show on Friday of next week. It is called Origins of Comedy, and I hope you can all come see that. This is going to be an unusual show. It's 3 comics doing 3 different acts. One comic is Gayla Johnson, who's been on the show before. She's a hilarious veteran comedian. She's going to be doing her act. And then the Red Bastard, Eric Davis, will be doing stand-up. A lot of you might know about Eric. He's a phenomenal clown, world-famous clown. And he is going to be doing some interactive audience participation kind of comedy. And then I'll be doing my act. And the whole thing is going to be hosted by Joe Fury, who a lot of you know Joe Fury from the show. He is an international superstar. Hoy Kamala Lopez is here. Hoy. On this show, we say hoy instead of hi, the traditional hi. We don't know why. It's just fun. Some of this stuff is just for fun. Today, my guest wrote this book. It gets to be easy if you let it. The Art of Authenticity and Other Life Lessons we skipped. So, this is going to be really interesting because a lot of us are working on keeping our minds right, keeping ourselves creative, not getting all caught up in stress. This book comes out on December 3rd, so there's a link in the show notes. Please buy it on December 3rd. That's the best time to buy it. We'll talk about that later. Hoy squared. There's another hoy. So that's going on. And then also, Howard Ronan, who is a comedian who has been on this show multiple times, is doing a show on Max called Second Stage. Let me get that one. Let me get that one on the screen as well. Second Chance Stage. I got it wrong. I saw the show. It's remarkable. Howard is incredible on it. He is the contestant on the second episode. They have several contestants. He's the only comic. I think you'll really enjoy that. Howard Ronan. Shout out to Howard. All right, let's get into the show. This is called Lunch Therapy. I'm gonna get myself a modem. 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 All right, it is the day after Thanksgiving. I don't know, you might not be watching this on the day after Thanksgiving, but I just want to say thank you to everyone out there who participates in the show, who has watched the show. We've been going on for, 4.5 years. I don't know what that animal is behind me, but it's really cool. That's a cool one. On Tuesdays, we have a variety show where we have animals and all kinds of quizzes and fun stuff. And on Fridays, we have interesting interviews with interesting people, such as Julia here today. And so I'm really grateful to all the people that have been guests on the show and all the people that have participated in the show. And also the Patreons. These are the Patreons. You can go to patreon.com/Joel Marshall. A lot of times this is how independent media is produced these days. Mike Knox, Todd Lee, Kamala Lopez, Liz Lopez, Robert Lopez, Jay Patterson, Pam Palmieri, Seth Word, Neil Phillip, Mary Marks, I believe, Jason Edelman. Thank you so much for being Patreons. Mike Knox says he's seen it twice. I think he's talking about Howard Ronan on the Second Chances stage. So yeah, that's a show where they bring people in that are in their kind of second phase, third phase of life, and they're stepping out and doing the things that they always ever wanted to do. First place. Mike Knox gives him first place. Yeah, he was really... The thing about Howard was that he brought himself to the stage. Not only was he doing comedy, but there seemed to be kind of an ease and a fluidity between him coming on the stage and just introducing himself and then going into his routine. It seemed like seamless. And that's the kind of thing that you want in a performer, somebody that as they walk in front of the camera, they're still them. Because we believe here at Lunch Therapy, I think, and I think all of you will agree, the more of yourself you can bring, the better off you are. Howard says happy Thanksgiving. Howard is in the chat room too, so that's cool. We got a celebrity in the chat room. All right, now we're going to breathe. We take 3 deep breaths at the beginning of this show. I'm going to bring Julia on. This is not her formal introduction, but she's going to be there for the breaths. Let's do this thing. All right, Julia, welcome to Lunch Therapy. Behind us, we have Healing Vibrations. Healing Vibrations, they are an outfit out of Seattle, and they do sound baths. And this is a really nice one here. Very visual and also oral, I guess, for the ears. Okay, so in through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. One more. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold the breath. Let it all out. Now we have a guy named Cosma. He's from Costa Rica, playing the handpan. I think our guest today, Julia, has spent some time in Costa Rica. Maybe she was in this pavilion here. I don't know. I was at one point in this pavilion. Very interesting place called Pachamama. I don't know if anybody's been there. Have you been there? You've been there. And I'd love to hear what you had to say about it. We had a very interesting experience there, to say the least. All right. Hello, Julia. Happy Thanksgiving, all. But yeah, Cosma, thanks so much for letting us play this on the show. All right, let's get into the show. I think the thing that I love most about this show is discovering people's stories. I think that stories are like really the thing that draws us to anything. And I don't know, you can think about the things that you really like. You know, like if you're really into sports, like let's say you like NFL football, it's not necessarily the games that engage you. It's the stories of the people in the games and the stories and the story that the game tells, because essentially they're very similar. The games, when you watch them, I mean, essentially they're just going back and forth. And when the thing's over, the time runs out and one of the teams wins. But really, it's the stories, and that's sometimes why we can't explain it to somebody else who might just be stepping into it. If you're like, I really like this musician, and but you follow them all the way through their development and through their growth, and you've listened to their lyrics and you understand the story of that person. A lot of times it's difficult to explain to someone else. And sometimes I think even in generation gaps, that's the problem, is that we don't understand the stories. You know, if you were to bring up some actor like Paul Newman to someone who maybe doesn't even know who Paul Newman is, you'd have to tell the story of Paul Newman. And that's why we enjoy documentaries, I think. And so bringing people on the show is a chance for us to hear their story, I think. And I'm going to give you a little synopsis of what I know about Julia. She's a Los Angeles-based certified conscious life and relationship coach. She's a retreat leader. She has a master's degree in psychology. She has a decade of experience, or over a decade of experience, in holistic wellness. She combines her passion for the human condition and self-development wisdom, psychological education, and she puts it all together to help people align their lives and their values and their purposes. So she has a podcast, the Permission Portal podcast. It was created to celebrate purpose, pleasure, and permission. And then she has this new book coming out. Life Gets Easier If You Let It. I think I oftentimes don't let it. And it's subtitled The Art of Authenticity and Other Life Lessons We Skipped. All right, so let's get into this thing.
When I wrote my book, It Gets to Be Easy If You Let It, I broke down the embodiment of ease through these three sections: mind, body, and spirit. It's what we use every single day as humans. It's the essence of being alive. And so in chapter 5 through 7, I break down the triple thread of ease. I'm giving you practical tips, personal insights, and a lot of funny stories about how I embodied ease in all of those areas. So if you're looking for a tune-up, a download, or a deeper plug-in, check out my book, It Gets to Be Easy If You Let It, The Art of Authenticity and Other Life Lessons We Skipped. Because ease is the story, and you're the main character.
Well, that's interesting. All right. All right. Yeah. Welcome to Lunch Therapy, Julia. So good to have you here.
I'm so honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh my God. Yeah. So I can't wait to read your book. I mean, it sounds like something amazing, but just even the title has made me act differently today. As I was preparing for the show, I tend to, I think, work too hard. And I work for hours in the middle of the night, and I'm trying to prepare all these different things. And I decided to kind of ease off a little bit, just kind of let things kind of develop. And I feel really good. You know, I feel really like energetic, and I'm really happy to have you on the show. And I want to ask you a little bit about how you came to be, you. Because I know you probably have gone through, I think maybe we met in an acting class a long time ago. I think that's probably where we met. And and that, of course, can be traumatic, the whole acting thing.
Yep.
And can you tell me,
can
you tell me a little bit about like how you started? What was your childhood like? Where did you grow up? What was that like? Let's go there.
Oh gosh, we're going to childhood.
Yeah,
Well,
let's do it.
I'm a princess of the Midwest through and through. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. Grew up in Michigan till I was about 18. Had a pretty, suburban lifestyle, nuclear family. Had a lot of fun. I was the youngest child of 3. So when you're given a lot of freedom and a lot of opportunity, it's on different things than some other people. And so I had a life growing up that was really centered on having a lot of time to find myself and discover myself. And, there's sort of this joke that when you're the baby, you're, the spoiled one, or you get all this freedom, your parents don't care. And I always say to people, I'm like, That's a blessing and a curse, because having that much time and having that much ability and space to sort of be with yourself really fostered who I became as an adult, which was someone very interested and very curious and very passionate about understanding themselves. But what comes with that too is, a lack of discipline and a lack of, ethics that took a long time to develop. And so I went to school in Chicago. I started out at DePaul University and ended up graduating over at Columbia, Chicago in acting. And, at some point you had to pick a coast if you really wanted to see that dream out of being an actor. I was not a New Yorker, so I came to California, and I've been in Los Angeles for about 10 years. And just like you said, I mean, you got to see if you have what it takes to make it when you think acting is the thing for you. And I had it for a while and realized I wasn't happy, and completely changed my life from there. So that's kind of the
That's so
backstory.
interesting. I spent some time in Chicago. I understand that Columbia, DePaul, the school is a lot of great actors come out of there, right? I mean, and I remember that being a real powerful breeding ground. Also, just Chicago itself has a very interesting theater community. Did you spend time there after you were in school as an actor?
No, because I transferred, I started at DePaul in the liberal arts. I was actually a creative writing and a philosophy major and minor.
Yeah.
So this is like where the roots were kind of starting. And, you're dabbling in what it means to be an adult and on your own for the first time in a city in college. So with, let's say, some heightened experiences, I started to realize, like, can I really make a career of sitting on a rock talking about life? I don't know. But I thought, well, what else am I good at? What else do I love to do? And acting was, I was a kid actor and a kid model and all those things. So it was always there. But when I graduated, I had an extra year of school tacked on. So all my friends were already done with college. They were finding their jobs. When I was done, I was pretty hungry and ready to start and to get out there. And at the time, I knew I loved theater, but I think it had sort of that sense of limitation to me at the time, where I was like, okay, I want Hollywood. I want, the big thing. I want that not even fame, but just that dream that you have and that you're envision when you're in school. But ironically, I came to Hollywood and didn't pursue film. I went into theater and became an immersive theater actress, and was really lucky to be a pretty well-known figure in that immersive community when immersive theater really was having its golden era. And so I got very lucky to work with some really talented and prominent companies at the time. I started my own theater company before the pandemic, was the one to watch for a while, which was unexpected and so cool. But, acting and I think about it now, like, would I go back to Chicago and probably not pursue acting, maybe have it more be a hobby, but I think I wasn't ready to be as serious about it in Chicago at the time. And I guess there's sort of this, it's kind of a paradox or contradiction to say that, like, I wasn't really ready for like the freedom of Chicago, but I was ready for the hustle of Hollywood, only to get here. Yeah. It's so strange. I don't think I appreciated what was in Chicago at the time, because you just have these ideas of grandeur and this idea of like, well, I'm going to go make it, and this is what is important. And it didn't take me long to realize, I was like, this isn't the dream I'm really wanting. This isn't the hustle. I wasn't hungry enough for it. And so I let it go.
What do you think about that as far as hustle goes? Because there's a lot of push, it feels like, from society to hustle. And it seems like it's gotten worse over time. And probably technology has even, instead of like kind of assisting us, sometimes it pushes us as well.
My perception of hustle is this idea that I'm going to tie everything together, but the idea of hustle, of just being like, there's always something to do. There's always more. There's always, the finish line is always moving. So it's this idea that if we're not productive, this idea if we're not achieving something, if we're not working towards something, what's our value? What's our worth? And in acting, the bittersweet question is always, have I seen you in something? And it's that notion of you having to be like, God, like, no, you probably haven't. Or, maybe you have, but it was this idea that even if you were proud of a project or you were in classes or you were constantly doing something to better yourself in the craft, it was this idea that you had to either be making money, have some type of notoriety, or in some way reach this level of success that society and that other people deem acceptable and appropriate. And so the idea of hustle to me was always do more, achieve more, be more. Like, yes, exactly. Constantly moving. And this is what I realized. I was like, whoa, we're making this so hard on ourselves.
Oh, that's interesting. You said that thing that you talked to your mom one day, and she said you always try to make life harder for yourself. Something
Well,
like that,
I'm going
right?
to be, yeah, I mean, I talk about my childhood a little bit, and I'm becoming
Yeah.
a little bit more candid about it now because I realize it was something I really protected growing up. But I come from a family of privilege, and I've found that the strength to be able to talk about that, despite the controversy around it, is a superpower because, I'm not going to sit here and say I wasn't extremely lucky or blessed or that I don't have, my basic needs being met. But with that type of privilege, there comes this deep guilt and this deep sense that you're not worthy of it. It wasn't mine. I wasn't working for that. I was given a life, and it created a perception in my head that I needed to work harder than everyone. I needed to prove myself. I needed to live up to what this privilege I was given, what that meant. And if I was going to sustain that, then I had an even higher bar of you have to work this hard to have this in your life because this is what's been shown to you. And my parents did not enforce that. My parents, I love them to death. They are the coolest people in the world. And they have always said to me, do what makes you happy. I mean, do truly what makes you want to wake up and live. And so to put this pressure on yourself, to put the hustle on yourself, I think my mom and my dad too looked at me and they were just like, we don't know why you feel this need to be, and I say it in the book, like the patron saint of burnout and like the queen of overextending yourself. And my mom just really lovingly looked at me one day and she's like, you have everything you need. And you are usually, when you put your mind to something, it happens. So she's like, why are you making it so much harder than it needs to be? Maybe it just gets to be a little easy. And I love her to death, but I'm not going to give her the credit that she said it gets to be easy. But she was the one who came to me and said, like, you're just making it harder. And when you hear that from somebody whose respect and whose admiration, whose pride you're trying to, gain. I mean, we all, depending on your relationship with your parents, like we all want our parents to be proud of us.
Of course.
And for them to look at me and be like, you don't need to be doing this much all the time in order for us to be proud of you. And are you proud of yourself? And in the end, I can list all the achievements and this resume of success I have, but in the end, I was like, no, I'm not, these things aren't making me proud of myself. It's something much simpler, much quieter, much more streamlined. And I changed my life after that. I mean, that was a couple years ago. I had just gotten my master's degree and said, I'm not going to go down the linear path of expected success. I'm going to make something different. I'm going to build out a different lifestyle. And that took me on a journey. I did some crazy things over the last few years that got me here, but I give my mom a lot of credit for looking at me and saying like, stop.
You got your master's degree in psychology while you were out here acting, or how did that work?
Yes. So in about, it was a couple years before the pandemic. It was 2018. I also talk about this story in the book. I was in a Shakespeare play. I have no business being in Shakespeare. Oh my God. No. When I had to do it in school, it was just a joke that I'm such a contemporary actor. My voice, my face, everything. I just don't reek of, the history stuff. I was in a Shakespeare show, and it was one of those shows where you're kind of like, what's going on here? You follow up with an audition online and you think like, okay, well, I'm in something. I booked it, but we're all kind of looking at each other like, director's a little weird. And where are we? It was like by like the harbor. It was just so strange. Long story short.
Yeah.
There had been a major disagreement between the actor and the director. The director had sort of publicly humiliated one of the actors and sort of after doing so looked to me and sort of asked and expected that I would sort of pick up the slack and perform this piece that this actor had just been sort of shamed for not doing well. And I remember that day saying, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't agree with what you're doing. And me and this director, I promise there's a point to this. The director and I had this public confrontation with each other where I literally said, I don't agree with this. I don't feel safe. I'm not doing it. And the director, I mean, in such a pivotal cinematic moment was like, well, you can either like get on board or you can leave. And I left. I quit the show. I walked out. I mean, everyone's looking at me just like, what the hell just happened? And I got in my car, drove down the 101. And I remember that day saying, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to be an actor. My passion and my strength is in creating spaces for people, for them to feel seen and for them to feel heard. I've been doing it my whole life. I said, I'm going to go and I'm going to study psychology once and for all. I'm going to go be this healer, this counselor, whatever I was doing naturally. I mean, I'm the friend people call for advice. I'm the, the person in the family that everybody has the most authentic relationship to. So I was like, there's something to me that I need to be doing more of that's not telling other people's stories, that's not creating space off of this, pre-written narrative. I need to be doing this just based off myself. And so literally the next day, I looked into schools. I had a deep intuition that it was Pepperdine University. I had no insight about this school. I knew nothing, but I just knew it was that school. I didn't know how prestigious it was at the time. And I got in. I did everything I needed to do. I wrote a killer essay and somehow connected becoming a therapist to what being an actor was like. And they contacted me saying, it's very clear that you have a perspective about the human condition and the psyche and aliveness that we really want to foster and we really want to encourage you. And from the very beginning, I told everyone at that school, I'm not going to follow the traditional route. I'm probably not going to become a traditional therapist, but I want this education and I want to use it and share it in a way so that it becomes integrated in something more holistic. And I had a lot of support to do that. And so I got my master's in 3 years. We hit the pandemic. I had to do half of that online. I don't necessarily encourage that for anybody. Doing grad school when online over Zoom is quite the experience, but in a lot of ways it was beautiful. And once we were done with the pandemic, I had this master's degree and I knew from there, I'm not going to be a therapist. I think everyone looked at me and said what the heck? Why did you just get a master's degree? And also, I took on the debt of that and all of it, but I just knew I was I'm supposed to have this education. I was supposed to get this certification. And one thing I want to say about that is having that education, I think, was really important, but I don't necessarily believe that we need those pieces of paper in order to embody and call ourselves experts. But something in me knew that having that certification, having that piece of paper and that credit was going to really support me in the long run. Definitely. For the mass society that's, that needs to see that in order to trust you and know that you have something important to say.
Well, I think also there's just a lot of people out there just kind of winging it. And sometimes that can be destructive.
There's a lot of people in grad school who are also winging it.
That's true. That's true.
Say, a lot of people got through that program and got a certification who I lovingly can say should probably not be therapists. But no matter what you do, I think take the steps you think are necessary and leave the rest. That would be my 2 cents. Wow. So that's that.
So what is important to you? When someone comes to you, how do you start? If you don't know them, how do you start to find out who they are? Do you do traditional therapy? Do you do a retreat? What do you do?
It's going to sound silly. So first thing I do is I look them in the eyes. It takes me 3 seconds. If I just look someone deep enough into their eyes, I know it's going to sound wacky, but I understand how to speak to them immediately. I got certified as a life coach after I got my master's degree. I did an amazing coaching certification program through something called the Mindfulness Mastery method with Alyssa Nobrega. She's an amazing mentor, amazing coach, and she has an academy and a program that basically licenses certifications for coaches. So you learn off the bat sort of not just what you think other people need, but they'll come and they'll tell you. So if someone comes to me and they're looking for coaching, I will ask them a series of questions and just say, what's the goal? What are you wanting? Over time, some people come to me because they want an experience, they want an immersion, they want connection. Okay, so I would probably say, come to an event, come to a retreat. Some people really are wanting to change their lives, change aspects of who they are. Okay, probably coaching, which I also infuse with counseling. If somebody's sort of looking for a little bit hands off, if they're not quite sure where they want to begin, I'll probably give them a resource or give them one coaching session and just say, let's ignite some questions and see what you do from there. But I mean, that's an interesting question because it's less about what I think someone needs and more about, well, what do you want from me?
Yeah, it sounds also like you're creating your own therapeutic process while
Very
you're
much so.
doing it. And so how do you keep yourself on track with that? You've been exploring things, right? I mean, you've been exploring different, I'm going to say the word modalities, even though I hate that word. You've been exploring different modalities as far as therapy goes. And I think it's great too and in coaching, I guess, in particular, I think it's great that you laid yourself a platform and said, okay, this is what traditional psychology is. And now I'm going to branch out. What are some of the journeys that you've been on trying to find, exactly what your methodology is?
In the beginning, I think with any new job, you have, even if you're trying to break free from it, the idea of the hustle. I need to get a lot of clients. I need to be busy. I need volume. And so in the beginning, I was really lucky to have a community and to be a part of communities where people were wanting a life coach or a relationship coach. And so I was taking on a lot of individuals, either in person or via Zoom or digital. And it was this combination of sort of counseling, what you experience in therapy here, tell me how you're feeling, tell me what's going on, what's happening today, but also utilizing all these techniques I'd learned as a coach or I'd learned as a therapist to not just sit there and have this person talk about how they feel, but really help them understand how they were thinking. People ask me all the time, what's the difference between therapy and coaching? I say, well, therapy is like the window into your emotions, into the emotional conversation. Coaching is what we do after that. It's sort of this manual of how to maintain yourself afterwards. I try to combine them. And in the beginning, I'll just say this now, I can say that it's been a couple of years. I really don't like working with too many people individually because there's something about inspiration that I think works better in a collective setting.
It seems like it, doesn't it? Yeah.
And so it took me about 1.5 years of working with all of these one-on-one clients. I was doing retreats on the side. I was doing events in LA. I was speaking at workshops and other people's retreats. And I started to just tune in, like, where am I feeling the most expanded? Where am I feeling the most inspired? And it would always be when I was talking to groups of people, when I was at an event or a retreat. In a world, you're creating a world for people. And so over time, I got much more intentional about my worth and about what I was good at. And I streamlined and said, okay, I'm going to raise the prices and I'm going to not take on every single individual who just comes to me wanting to be a client. And you also get really selective is the word, but it's not the essence. You have to be very mindful about who you choose to work with. Not just everybody should work together. If the energy is not there, if the collaboration doesn't feel cohesive, I've had a lot of people come to me and I've had to say, like, I'm not the right person for you to work with. Our energies are not going to collaborate in the way that you need to make changes or for you to listen to me and listen to yourself. And so you just get a little bit more refined in terms of like, hey, here's what I'm willing to take on. These are my non-negotiables. And as not just your coach, but now kind of like your friend, because that's what a coach is. It's basically you're paying someone to basically become your best friend. I like to think of it that way because at the end of the day, I'm not sitting here being like, come on, man, we got to get those goals out. That's not my style. Mine is more like, I'm going to be really honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to be really candid. Sometimes it's going to be some tough love, but I'm going to make sure that I'm saying it in a way that speaks your language so that it's not feeling like you're being reprimanded or put down. This is all just meant to expand you. So if you're going to hire somebody to basically come in and renovate your life.
Yeah.
Exactly. The power to say no to some people was how I protected my energy, protected my skills and what I had to offer. And now I'm really happy to say I've found a really beautiful platform or medium with what I offer. I have a high tier coaching opportunity that lasts up to about like 6, sometimes 8 months. You know, that's an investment. That's really saying, I'm really investing in myself and in you to make some life changes or to design myself in a way that feels more authentic. I offer relationship coaching. This is a little bit more like, hey, I really just want to center myself with a partner or a colleague or family. And I offer now one-off sessions where I'm kind of like, hey, you want to just do one and like, let's ignite some inspiration. Amazing. Like, I don't want to deal with this for a long time. You don't want to deal with this for a long time. Let's just get it one and done and get out of here. The main focus for me now is branching more towards public speaking, the book, podcasting, events, kind of getting away from this whole, like, I'm a life coach and more, I like to say I'm a lifestyle designer. And a lot of people look at me and they're like, the heck does that mean? I'm like, if you think about it, I'm not necessarily focused on coaching you to the outcome. I'm more helping you see what's possible, providing you a blueprint and kind of inspiring you to keep trying things until something feels like you. But I don't promise the result of anything. And I think a lot of coaches get pigeonholed into thinking like, we promise results and I'm going to be there keeping you accountable to the finish line. I don't think that's not my style. That's all I got to say.
What about stress? What is stress? Is there a purpose for stress? Is there a way to eliminate it? What do you do with that? Because sometimes I feel like a lot of my energy just goes towards the idea of stress. And I use it as a motivator sometimes, but I think it wastes energy doing things that way.
You need to read my book, chapter 5. It's called Don't Psych Out. Don't psych yourself out. I'm not going to get into all the psychological jargon of it, but what I will say is that stress is a primordial, like we have it because we're animals. Stress lets us know that something matters to us, but if we don't break down our values, and everyone is capable of holding 5 core values at a time. We think that we're all these, you know, wells of all these things. 5 core values. It actually streamlines you being able to look at whatever is causing you stress and you saying, if my core values are not all present in this thing that I'm stressing over, then it's not that important. So that energy that we're all like, oh my God, that, you know, I have this deadline and it's this weekend and everything. You have to ask yourself, okay, I'm using physical, emotional, and spiritual energy to think about this and to prioritize this. Does this advance me physically, emotionally, or spiritually? First question. Second question is there one core value of mine that is missing in this thing I'm stressing over? That is what you want to give your attention to. How can I give more of this core value to this thing that's causing me stress so that I can create balance? I would say that's the most simplest way I can explain stress to people. Yeah. Stress is fear, yes, but I want to note that fear is also a primordial indication. They are actually separate. Stress is mental duress, whereas fear is a physical indication of danger. Stress is more anxiety, and anxiety is this overwhelm of what could go wrong. The way to redefine and reframe stress is to ask what could go right. And when people hear these concepts, I'm the first one to point it out and put one foot on the ground and say like, oh yeah, it's so much easier said than done. Just see it as a positive thing, right? And people go, F off. Like, no, I can't. This is where we start to break down what stress actually means to you. It actually means something different to everyone. And so if you ask me what stress is, stress to me is not letting things be easy, right? And that seems, again, kind of basic answer. If I'm realizing that, oh my God, this thing I'm supposed to do is causing me stress, I have to examine it and go, why does this feel hard? What about this is hard? What about myself is making this hard? And usually this is like where the whole like, you know, projection of self comes through. This is where we have to get really honest. Is it something having to do with avoidance, procrastination, projection? Stress is just basically an indication of your inner critic coming out saying there's something about you that you're not looking at. And so we're going to stress you out until you look at it and examine it. And the only way through is to examine it. That's why we always say you have to feel it to heal it. Stress happens when we're not looking at the deeper issue.
Wow,
Does that answer your question?
Well, it begins to answer my question in a very profound way. I'll say that.
Oh, yeah.
Kamala says, can you please give an example of how you would implement that idea of finding the core value that is missing and bringing it in? I'm not sure I understand that exactly.
Totally. Thank you for your question. I talk about this in the book. It's a huge thing that I start every client, even friends off. We talk about the 5 core values for a long time, because when you really are asked, what are my 5 core values? The way to think about this, these are your North Stars. These are the things that are guiding your life.
I'm writing this down. I'm writing this down. 5 core values. This sounds important.
Next Tuesday, guys, get this book. I'm telling you, chapter 3 is going to change your life.
Yeah.
Your clarity compass. I have everything branded to simplicity for everybody who needs this. So 5 core values.
Yeah.
When you're looking at those values, and again, just an example of these, this could be freedom, service, community, truth, family, self-expression. I mean, you can get creative with your values. They don't have to just be the core, like honor, truth, liberty. Like, no, get real. One of those missing, you wouldn't be you. So like when you think about like, oh God, like, okay, some people think, oh, joy is one of my values, but maybe it's actually something more specific than that. Is it really joy that's your value, or is it expression? Is it, health? I mean, you really want to get to the core of it. So when you're looking at something in your life that is stressful, and let's just say the way I would break it down is, what do you want? When people come to me, I have to say, what do you want? What area of life is it that we're focusing?
Do you think they know? Like they would be able to answer that? Or is that just like pulling the thread of like finding it?
It's both. I mean, I can tell when someone really just is lost and is like, please extract this out of me. So we'll do some more deeper questions. But for the most part, I think you got to give people credit that they know a lot more than they think they do. And that's what being, I think, I don't want to say a good coach, but I think that's what being an intuitive coach can be, which is saying like, okay, so you're unhappy because you don't have a partner or you don't like your relationship. So we're probably looking at love and we're probably looking at connection. Let's say that you're stressed out about this. You're stressed out about love. I would say, what are your 5 core values? And which one is missing in that area of your life, or which one is not getting the most attention? Let's say it's freedom. Oh, I'm feeling like I don't have any time and space to be myself. I'm feeling like I'm obligated. I'm feeling like I don't know what to do because they need me. Okay, so freedom is suffering. So we would focus on that and say, how can we give more freedom in your love life or in love? And what does that look like? More so, how does that feel like? The biggest mistake that people make is trying to interpret something logically when every single change you make in your life begins with a feeling. And this is where like the whole woo-woo sector kind of comes in a little bit.
Yeah.
Everybody hears about the law of attraction and manifesting. Well, what does this mean? It's a little out there. Manifesting is all about connecting to the feeling of what you want. So if something's feeling out of alignment, if you're stressed, instead of going, I'm stressed, what should I do? How should I solve this? Think, how do I want to feel? And if you want to feel more at peace, if you want to feel at ease, if you want to feel calm, if you want to feel capable, you want to feel free. Well, what does that feel like in you? Sorry for the background noise.
It's okay.
How does that feel in you? And when you connect to that, okay, am I feeling it physically? Do I feel expansion in my heart? Do I feel a flutter in my mind? Or is it an image? Is it a memory? When you connect to that, you now have evidence that it's possible for you to create that reality. So now you're already changing your mind from going, I'm stressed, or I don't have this thing, or I'm not free, into, well, freedom in relationship or freedom in love might feel like having a day out of the week to just relax and watch TV, or it just feels like taking a deep breath. So now we know what we're working towards. How do we give you that? How do we create a life, a day where you have that? And then we just routine it. It becomes a muscle. It becomes a habit.
Are there unhealthy things that make you go, that feels good? And what do you do about those? What if it's like alcohol makes me feel good or something? What if it's something like that?
That's a subjective case, only because I will say it depends on what your definition of unhealthy is. I mean, alcohol, drugs, sex, and rock and roll can all be great in moderation. You might be somebody who can have 3 drinks on a Tuesday and it doesn't affect you in the same way it might somebody who's hindered or inhibited by that. So I don't like to judge things or label them as good or bad, healthy or not healthy. I think for me, the way I'd frame that is, what is this giving you? And do you feel like it's in balance and in alignment with your values? If you are valuing health and you're choosing, a beer every single night and you're thinking, yeah, but it's what makes me feel good. I'd say, yeah, but is that in alignment with your values? And if you're able to look at me and say, no, I say, great. So and you're aware. So now you have to accept that. And that's the part people skip, because all they want to do is go, well, I'm aware this is bad for me. I want to change it. But if we skip acceptance, then we can't go from awareness to aligned action. So when you say what if something's not good for me? I'd say, can you accept that it's not good for you? Because if you're unwilling to accept that, it doesn't matter if I tell you it's bad for you or not. You're going to keep doing it. You have to accept it's unhealthy. And that's just getting deeper and more honest with yourself, usually with questions or support, for someone to identify and see, oh, maybe I do believe that this is not good for me actually, or that this is not in alignment. This isn't authentic to me. And that's when someone says this is good or bad, I say, is it authentic? If it is, then you just got to balance it. And that's a muscle. If it's not, then you have the capability to change it if you want to.
I like what you were saying is at one point you were saying in one of your podcasts that if you're not saying fuck yeah, then don't do it. That's an interesting one. I like it a lot.
Can I cuss on here? Can I curse?
Yeah.
I can.
Yeah.
If it's not a fuck yes, it's a fuck no.
It's a fuck
and
no.
That's the thing. I mean,
but so a lot of times there's other people's feelings involved in it, and so you feel sort of obligated to do something, or maybe it's something you hate doing in life, like taxes. You're like,
oh,
fuck
fucking hate
no.
taxes.
Fuck no, I'm not doing taxes.
But think about how can you reframe it to align with your core values. I don't fucking like taxes. You ask me to do anything in this practical, tangible 3D world that we're living in, and honestly, I don't get it. I don't get why we deal with these things. To me, this is all bullshit. But I have to remind myself, doing those taxes gives me the ability to be free in order to talk about the things that I love. Those taxes,
I think you're right about that.
This work that I'm doing. If you can continue finding the why will set you free from the how. And people focus so much on the how. Well, how do I do taxes? Okay, why am I doing taxes? Okay, now I'm inspired. Well, if I have all my taxes in alignment, then I'm free, I'm safe, I can contribute, I can continue moving forward. And you know what? There's always going to be somebody who can figure it out for you. If you don't want to figure it out, don't. For me, taxes are a fuck no. I'm not doing them. You're going to do them. Somebody.
But you have to find a confident person to do them. Otherwise, if you fuck no it too much, then you can be like, oh, that person ran off with all my money. Things like that. Right.
But there's the balance of going, I'm a fuck yes for finding somebody I trust.
Yeah.
Somebody with credentials to do my taxes. Because for me,
because I'm also a fuck no on I'm going to suffer because the person didn't do it right. That's also a fuck no, is I've got to find the right person to do this thing. Otherwise, later on, I'm going to be in the fuck no area with my life. You know what I mean?
Talking about taxes, we're again.
Yeah, we're talking about taxes, but that's just something because everybody hates taxes. Kamala ordered the book. Congratulations, Kamala. If we can get people to order the book on December 3rd, though, it's very helpful as well. And I'm glad that you ordered the book, Kamala. I can't wait to read the book.
I just want to tap on that really quick and just say, Kamala, thank you so much. I mean, I'm so honored. And one of the things that Joel's saying is that on December 3rd, when the book launches on Amazon next week, it's really awesome to see like a huge sales spike that day. It really contributes to becoming a bestseller on Amazon, which will open so many doors. And I'm so thankful for all the pre-orders, but if you guys could do me the solid and spread the word to buy the book on December 3rd, that sales velocity has the potential to do some crazy shit. And I want to share that with you guys. So I'm just so excited. Thank you so much.
So
it means
interesting.
a lot.
Do you ever, I could talk to you all day, but we're running out of time. But do you ever find that you have too many fuck yeahs? Is this because you have too many core principles, or, you know what I mean? Like so many things that I find life so exciting. And there's so many things that are just like, yeah, I want to do that. Do you ever find yourself with too many fuck yeahs?
Oh yeah.
And
I mean, it took me, I wrote a book about it. I wrote a book about it. My whole life has been a fuck yeah. I mean, I'm like I said, the queen of doing more than everyone else. And so taking the time to figure out, this is an interesting question. Because again, I don't know if I want to claim that I have an expert answer on this. I think this is an evolving truth for all people, but having too many choices and choosing too many things is an avoidance in and of itself, even though it's a beautiful thing. And I think a lot of people frame it as being this awesome positivity and wow, you're so expansive, but really it's also a defense mechanism from choosing. When you decide you want to put your focus into something and you give as much of your all or your best to that, that is a really powerful commitment and a really powerful embodiment of your authenticity. Being spread too thin and having too many things going on at once, which I mean, I'm still working on that. Like people make fun of me all the time saying, how do you do what you do? And like, literally last night, someone emailed me and goes, you're a machine. And I went, well, I'm just one of those people who has something in me that can balance this. But when I couldn't, it was because I was getting too excited about all the ideas and getting lost in the execution, getting lost in the outcome of that. The impact was not aligning with the intention that I had. So when you really can look at something and say, oh, I have this intent with all these ideas and all this inspiration, and I want to say yes to this, and I want to go to this, just ask yourself, quality versus quantity. Is the quality of me saying yes to all of this life living up to the impact I want to have and the impact it's having on me? Or am I just filling my perceived cup, but it's overflowing? So really I can't control it. And people are drinking out of it and I don't even know who's at the watering hole. And oh my God, like am I even hydrated, or am I drowning? It's a great way to think like, no, if you can keep your cup at like a solid balanced line, then you get to drink from it. You're hydrated and you can share it with other people. It's a quality cup. So I'd say if you're finding yourself getting overzealous about what life has to offer, get really intentional and let it be easy. Choose one thing or maybe two, and let's just really indulge in that. And that doesn't mean you can't be hedonistic or shedonistic about it. It just means, hey, like, yes, life, you're offering me all this. If it's meant for me, you will be there. I'm going to give my attention to something and commit myself, because that is a really sacred choice. And that's what the book's all about.
That is so great. I'm going to ask you one more thing before we end the show, because we're at the end, unfortunately. But what do you do on a daily basis to what kind of practices do you do?
Oh, this is such a fun question. I'm going to give you the PC answer and I'm going to give you the truth. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Let's do it.
The PC answer is that I do all the things that I advise other people. I am my own first client. I do the breath work. I do the yoga, the meditation. I do the stretching. I do the chakra aligning. I do the Celtic weaves. I mean, I literally wake up every morning and before my eyes open, I'm not even kidding, I whisper to myself, today is going to be a really good day. I've done this for 2 years straight. Then I lift. Coming out of bed, I lift so that my heart rises first. In feng shui, if your heart is the first thing to rise, it's a very sacred act to say that my heart is open to the day. And then I say it again, today's going to be a good fucking day. And then I get out of bed and I rub my hands together to create that heat. And I go through every chakra through my body. And I say, today's going to be a really good day. And then I literally do, and I lock that energy in. I go, hell yeah. And then I literally put on a proverbial crown. I'm not even kidding. I make people do this at every retreat. I put my crown on every day and I say, I'm a motherfucking queen. And you feel it. it starts the day off. I swear to God, it feels it. But like, you know, the practices that I talk about in the book, these methods of thinking, these tools to help you identify what you're feeling and what you believe in and your values, I've done them all. Now, the truth, I don't do them every day. I don't do these things every day.
Yeah.
I'm the embodiment of it. I mean, it's who I am now. It's embedded, and I talk about this in my book, and it's a big word that I use in my life. So hopefully you guys will take on and not think that it's weird. When you grok something, Grok, when you grok it, it becomes you. You don't have to practice it. You don't have to keep enforcing it as deeply. Grokking is this word from Stranger in a Strange Land, the creative writing. And it literally means when you empathetically, intuitively, embodyingly know something.
Yeah.
You don't have to be told and explained it. You just know it. You just grok it.
Yeah.
So I'll look at people and I say, like, do you grok it? And they'll be like, what? I'm like, think about it. Is it a part of you? So all of my practices, they're a part of me. So I don't engage them every day, all the time. But my major ones, I'll just be honest, I'm a huge proponent of plant medicine. I am deeply committed to retreats. I take myself on at least one retreat a year. Writing is a huge practice for me, and speaking, expression is the way that I understand the world. And I would say just continually writing a permission slip for myself and saying every single day, like, is this in alignment with the life I want? Is this easy? That is my number one practice every day.
Wow. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you go down to that Pachamama in Costa Rica?
Ooh, baby. Yeah, I went down to Pachamama. I was there in 2022, right?
Yeah.
Down in Nicoya Peninsula. I had a retreat there. I was a guest speaker. We had a little queendom, and it was pretty cool. I mean, I've gone to Costa Rica at least once or twice a year for the last like 4 years for multiple different things. Pachamama means Mother Earth. I mean, it was just one of the most beautiful places.
What are some of your favorite places to go?
I love Nosara. I mean, can't get enough Nosara. I love going up into the mountains. I'm a huge Uvita fan. If I could live down in Uvita in Costa Rica, I would. I don't necessarily like, I've stayed at such different places every single time. I mean, I've gone there for retreats.
What about other countries? Do you go to other countries?
Yeah, I have. Yes, I've gone to other countries.
What are some of your favorite countries?
I mean, I'm such a fan for Europe. I grew up, I lived in France for every summer from when I was 13 to 18. We had family friends, and so they'd send me there. And when you grow up and become a teenager in the south of France, it's a pretty eye-opening experience.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, man.
South of France is beautiful.
Woo!
Beautiful.
And it's just crazy. But I love Iceland. Iceland's one of my favorite places in the world. If you ever get the chance, I mean, it's literally going to a different planet.
Yeah.
But yeah,
well, wait, it's not literally going to a different planet.
Well, I mean, one could say I felt like I was leaving.
I haven't been there, so I don't know, but I'm pretty sure
beautiful.
It's on this planet.
It's on this planet, but I'm telling you, like, if we got to experience like being in front of like the most ultimate natural world, that's Iceland. But yeah, I mean, Costa Rica is near and dear to my heart. It's the one that I talk about the most. It's where I've had the most prolific experiences.
It is. Oh, okay. That's so interesting. All right. Book is coming out December 3rd. We're going to remind you on Tuesday when we do lunch therapy again. At the end of the show, we do a little dance break. Howard Aronin says Bjork is from another planet. There you go.
Yes, she is. Yes,
Bjork
she is.
She definitely is. All right. Dance break time. This is going to be another hand pan by these people called Goli and Asia. And it's super fun. And that's the way we ended the show. Thank you so much for being on the show, Julia. This has been a real gift having you on the show. And I look forward to reading your book. All of us do. And also, if anybody wants to go to Julia's website, I'm going to show that to you here. Let me just get that real quick. Boney, could you call Boney? Yeah, there he is. Okay. There it is. It's called IamJuliaHenning.com. And it's a beautiful site that you have.
Well, in a week, it's going to look completely different.
No way! You're kidding me.
Yeah, we're doing a whole new rebrand.
You are wild.
Launch. Yeah, man. I decided to go crazy. And like you said yes to everything at once. So we're getting a whole new website, a whole new brand, but it's going to be Julia World. So a very illustrative, very immersive, everything that is me basically drawn into a world. Wow. It was time. Yeah,
Well,
it was
you
time.
know
I
what?
thought it was
We're looking at something that you won't be able to look at in the future, so you can always go back to this and take a look at it. But yeah, I mean, if it's better than this one, it's going to be incredible.
I've shown it to a couple people and it's been a lot of
bet.
speechless like responses. So I'm excited. And also you guys, you can follow me on Instagram at I am Julia Henning. There's a lot of fun content I'm putting out right now and I love connecting with people and talking. So if there's anything else I can do to support you, please don't hesitate. And Joel, I just want to say thank you so much. This is the first time publicly that this press tour is kicking off for me. And I'm just so thankful. You guys have been a lovely crowd.
All right, let's do it. Let's dance it out.
Cool.
These people are amazing. I don't know where I am. Where am I? There I am. This might be Iceland too. I don't know. There's some volcano.
Like
maybe. Some volcanoes.
It's giving.
These people are incredible.
Wow.
You came at me like I'm the monster. Words are crazy, rip my heart still. All around the top is us. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You just have been a roller coaster. But now I feel that heading off of it. It's like nothing can really stop her.
All right, there's your taste of Gioli and Asia. Thanks everybody for joining us today. This has been Lunch Therapy. Julia Henning giving us the power of fuck yeah. All right, see you all later.